How did a speech by former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld inspire in one 12-year-old a passion for enhancing quality of life through economic development? Tiff sat down with Stephen Cole, now very much an adult, and the executive director of the Plymouth Foundation to find out.
I'm with Stephen Cole from the Plymouth Foundation. Welcome. So good to have you.
Hi, Tiff. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's dig in.
All right.
Tell us about your early background. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up on Cape Cod. I call it Peninsular Plymouth sometimes. And I now live in Buzzards Bay, which I also call sometimes Continental Cape Cod. Pretty reciprocal, but I grew up on Cape Cod, went away for a few years to go to Westfield State, got my master's at Trinity in Hartford. And then after I was done working for the city of Hartford, I boomeranged back and I came back to Massachusetts, coming into this role about 6.5 years ago.
Ooh. So what led you here professionally where you are today?
Into economic development?
Yes.
Well, I started my career in Springfield. The city of Springfield had a financial control board, so it had some financial and economic difficulties at the time. I started as an intern, became a mayor's aide, mayor's chief of staff. And it was during that time I realized, we can spend all day counting beans, right? But it doesn't make more beans. You have to do something different. And my whole focus went from finance to economic development. It was there I realized that you can solve old entrenched problems in a community using new money, new resources, fresh ideas. A lot of variables that go into economic development really appeal to me. Like it's a collaborative approach to problem solving in a lot of ways. And it certainly uses all levels of government, local, state, in some cases county and national. So I gravitated toward it during my time in Springfield because it really helped me better understand how cities run, how they grow, and how they remain stable for its citizens.
Wow, you really worked your way up. That's incredible.
I started young. I think I knew what I wanted to do right away, and that helped me, But I met some really wonderful people while at Westfield State. Some friends who live in the area. Shout out to my friends, the Cunyas, Jay, Maggie, Kate, and Chance and Olivia. They were one of the things that really helped me want to come back here. With the skill sets that I acquired, I wanted to apply it in my own kind of community, the place where I grew up. So when I came back to the area, I settled on Buzzards Bay, and it gave me great access to places like Plymouth.
Excellent. Tell me about the Plymouth Foundation. What's your mission?
Sure. So we're organized as a 501c3. We're a nonprofit. There's 13 board members. The president is Bill Hallisey. The vice president is Jay Kimball. Jack Meal is our treasurer, and Kevin O'Reilly is our clerk. But we also have Amy Naples on our board, who's the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. Matt Muratori, former state representative. So it's a really great cross-section of disciplines and levels of community engagement. Our purpose is to enhance our purpose is to enhance quality of life, right? That's what economic development really is supposed to focus on, enhancing quality of life, and in ways that don't necessarily degrade the built environment or the natural environment. So one of the things that we focus on is land use. How do we responsibly use our land so that the town can generate the type of tax revenue that it needs to deliver its services, but it also uses the land in a way that creates high-paying, meaningful jobs for people so they can afford to live in this area. We also focus on small business development, so we help small businesses start and grow. Entrepreneurship, which is one of my favorite things that we focus on. Things like the Children's Business Fair, which I know you folks are familiar with. And also the Blue Economy Conference. We celebrate entrepreneurship there. And then what we call marketing events and cultural assets, MECA. So we're a tourism economy. We have a lot of wonderful historic assets here in Plymouth that other communities would be desperate for. So we want to celebrate those and use those as part of our economic development strategy.
You had mentioned Blue Future happening on October 16th. Can you tell us what's going on for this year?
I'll be very glad to. In fact, so this is our first year. Excuse me, did I say first year? Yeah. It's our fourth year. During our first year, we set the mission, the purpose, that we wanted to not just explore the innovation that's happening in the blue economy, but we also wanted to put Plymouth at the helm, so to speak, right? Really show Plymouth as a leader in blue economy. And what does that mean? Well, what we think it means is AI, quantum, robotics, aquaculture. We have companies in Plymouth that operate in all of those areas. We've seen really impressive increase in the amount of aquaculture that we're seeing produced. We also have a robotics company. I'm sure you know, but we launched submarines at Cordage Park thanks to Green Sea IQ. So we want to celebrate what we have, but we know that there's a lot more opportunity for us. We have 37 miles of coastline. We're also at the nexus of 3 what they call CZM zones, coastal zone management. So we're the gateway to Cape Cod and the South Coast, and then access, of course, up into the North Shore, Boston and the North Shore. There's 78 coastal communities in Massachusetts. I do believe that Plymouth has the most to offer as a leader in blue economy.
So last year at Blue Future, this really stuck with me. You said if Massachusetts was cut off from the rest of the world, we would have less than a full day's calories to support us. So in what ways can we invest in our local food systems?
That's a great question. And thank you for picking that up, because that's one of the things, and for what it's worth, I was parroting back what the state has told us. You know, we have this feeling, I think, these days that we live in perpetual crisis. But what is the crisis? It's an energy crisis. It's a jobs crisis. It's a housing crisis. It's a water crisis. One of the crises that we actually live under is a food crisis. And we saw some of this during the pandemic. You know, about a third of the food supply chain is reserved mostly for restaurant, right? Another third or so is reserved for manufacturing. So you produce higher levels of things in processed foods. You know, only about a third or so, we understand, was coming into grocery stores. So if we were cut off from production, Massachusetts, I understand, does not have enough calories on our shelves to feed the state for even a day. Part of what we do in the Blue Economy Conference is to expose people to problems. Entrepreneurs solve problems. So we want to expose them to the problems and encourage them to work on ways to solve them. One way we can do that, if we know that land is scarce and farmland isn't readily available, we can look to our ocean. I mean, there's protein-rich food products right at our shore. So we have shellfish, shellfish growers here that have been wildly successful. And I just want to take a second too to talk about the economy of an oyster for a second, right?
Okay.
This is something that grows and then you wholesale it for 53 cents, right? The whole thing, including the meat inside. You sell it to a restaurant for 53 cents. And then the restaurant sells it to you for $3.50. And what did they really do? All they did was open it up and put cocktail sauce on the side, right? And then you take that shell and then you throw it away. And now it has no intrinsic value. Until, of course, you go to the Children's Business Fair and you see how young entrepreneurs are taking those shells and turning them into art and selling them for $20 per side of the shell. So you take something that has a natural value of, say, 53 cents, and at the very end of its life cycle, you can sell it for $40. There's something really valuable there, and that's why we try to bake in the arts conversation too in our conversations around blue economy. It has a place. So it's a long way to say that we can't solve all of our problems ourselves, but if we encourage entrepreneurs to think about ways that they can use resources more mindfully to help achieve things like food production, we might be able to present ourselves as somewhat resilient.
You had mentioned about art, and the foundation definitely talks about art a lot and focuses on that. Why is that? Can you expand on that?
I can certainly tell you from my perspective why I am interested in art. Mm-hmm. And let me just pull out my, yep. So when I was a kid watching reruns of Star Trek, this was sci-fi. And now life has imitated art. And that's an important lesson that I carried with me through my life. There's plenty of times where you can look at art also as a way to have very hard, complex conversations in a community. Artists do a really great job taking these really complex ideas and then condensing them into something that's pictorial. Why, though, we focus on art in the blue economy is because there's no shortage of examples where art is already nestled into blue economy. And we added it to the STEM curriculum because poetically, with STEAM, you have power. You can do anything with STEAM. We've shown that through the Industrial Revolution. So I really wanted to have arts baked into the economy here for blue economy, but I also think arts is underrepresented in Plymouth's broader economy. And so talking about it as a strategy, I think is not just permission for people to participate in the art space, but it's also a bit of a challenge. I mean, I see artists also as entrepreneurs. It's a difficult word to adopt, but artrepreneur is a real thing. You know, it's not just that life imitates art. Sometimes we're looking to artists to give us some direction on where we should be going.
We've talked about the foundation's mission. What about your mission? What about your own personal mission?
I just want to do good. I mean, I don't know that I know what I need to know to do the good that I seek to do, but I just want to do good in the community. I think of myself when I was a kid, right? And we grew up on public assistance. And I think that I want to be the person I feel like I needed at that time. And at all stages of your life, you can come into some kind of complications or setbacks. And I think through economic development, we can help people problem solve for themselves. We do workforce training. with our partners, right? We do the Children's Business Fair partly because I wanted to take away that mysticism at a young age, right? So when you're a fifth grade and you look under the bed and you see there's no boogeyman there, right? It makes you bolder and braver to do some of these audacious things later in life. Running a business for an adult who's never done it before can be very scary. But when you did it in fifth grade and you made money at it, it's something you're probably more likely to be confident to do later in life. So that's really what I think I want to do. I want to be the guy who fills the gaps in the community to help people ascend economically the way I was able to.
Is this your passion? Is this what you were born to do?
I didn't know it then when I was a kid. But yeah, I remember watching Governor Weld make an announcement about welfare reforms when I was 12. And with all the hubris of a 12-year-old, I remember thinking, if he knew what I knew, right? So I thought I had to be governor of the Commonwealth in order to kind of solve these problems that I was seeing even at the age of 12. When I was post-college and I had seen what economic development was, no one had exposed me to that before. So it was a very easy pivot for me to go, say, from an interest in finance to an interest in economic development. I'll just tell one really quick story, if that's okay.
Sure.
Blight in major urban areas is a problem, and its pervasiveness is not contributing to economic development. You need to get rid of blight, i.e. you have to demolish buildings. And when I was a young, aggressive, probably very pompous young man right out of college working in the mayor's office in Springfield, we had a building that had been complained about for 20 years, right? And no one had done anything about it. It was finally slated to be demolished. And this little old lady called the office and asked if we could delay the demolition because her grapes that she grew in her backyard were nearly mature. And the vibrations from the demolition would cause the grapes to sour. And she uses those grapes for jellies, jams, wines. And this was really important to her. I initially dismissed that. I thought, there's no way we can do this or we should do this. This building has been complained about by the community for 20 years. The mayor at that time sent me to her house to meet her and to see the grapes and to see her yard. And I got to really sense the value of those grapes to her. It was just as important that that house came down. But if we could delay it just 2 more weeks, her quality of life could be enhanced, not just from selling these things, but also that kind of feel-good thing that I grew something and now I have a finished product. That's manufacturing. That's entrepreneurship. And that was one of those pivotal moments for me where I realized, it's not just about economic development for the community. Economic development is for people, the people in the community. And that's when I think I realized I wanted to do economic development for the rest of my life.
Well, the people in the community are lucky to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, we're so glad you stopped by. If you'd like to support Community in Action through media, please consider donating to the local scene. The QR code will take you where you need to go. Thanks, friend.